Video is for the square root calculator help page. So on your calculator for a square root, you're going to use the radical symbol, and to do that you're going to press second and then the x squared button, and you need to be careful to end the radical symbol. So what that means is if you have a problem that looks like this, if you don't end your radical, your calculator will figure it like this. So that's something you need to always look for when you're using the calculator to do square roots. And so you end your square root or your radical symbol by using the yellow arrow keys, and what you're going to do is you're going to push the right arrow key until you get out from underneath that radical symbol. Okay, so the area of a square is 125 square centimeters. What is a good estimate for the length of a side of the square? Plot your estimate on the number line. So we've got a square, and we know that the area is 125 square centimeters. So in a square, we know that area equals the side squared. So to do the opposite, to work backwards here, let's plug in what we know. We know the area is 125 and then side squared. So to get rid of that square, that 2 up there, that exponent, you can square root both sides. And what that does is the square root sign cancels the exponent of 2. So what we're doing is we are finding the square root of 125. So if you type that into your calculator, you're going to get approximately 11.1803. And so we've got to plot this on a number line. So this will be 10, 11, 12, 13. So if I would plot that, 11.1 is going to be really close to 11. And so this would be the square root of 125. So anytime that you plot a number on a number line, you want to make sure that you label your point, and also label the points around it if you can. Okay, the next part says list 2 consecutive integers each irrational number is located between on a number line. Circle the integer it would be closer to when graphed on a number line. All right, so that's important that we need to circle the integer it's going to be closer to. So the square root of 10, if you put that in your calculator, you're going to get 3.16228. So the integers that is between, it's between 3 and 4. So you pick the 2 whole numbers on either side. And so 3.16 is going to be closer to 3 than it is to 4. All right, the square root of 78, if you put that into your calculator, you're going to get 8.83176. So the 2 integers it's in between are 8 and 9. So 8.83. 8.83 is going to be closer to 9. And so how you determine this, guys, is you take the number that's in between them. So 8.5 is in between 8 and 9. So if it's greater than 8.5, it's going to be closer to 9. If it's less than 8.5, it's going to be closer to 8. So that's how you judge which one it's closest to. And then finally, the square root of 39 is 6.245. So the 2 integers that's between are 6 and 7. And 6.2 is closer to 6 than it is to 7. All right, the area of a square is 68 square centimeters. The length of the side of the square is located between what 2 consecutive integers on a number line? So again, we're dealing with the area of a square. Sorry about that. So we know that the area of a square equals side squared, and then we can fill in the blanks here. So the area is 68. And then to get rid of that exponent of 2, we square root both sides, so I've got the square root of 68 is going to give me my side length. So again, just kind of the thought process of why we're square rooting here. All right, so there's another way you can do this, and you can do this in your head, and that is to take your perfect squares. So if you remember, our perfect squares would be like 5 squared equals 25, so 25 is a perfect squared. 6 squared is 36, 7 squared is 49, 8 squared is 64, and 9 squared is 81. So we're dealing with the square root of 68. So how you do this in your head or without the use of the calculator is you find the two perfect squares that it falls in between. So the square root of 68 falls in between 64 and 81. So I know that the two integers that it would fall in between would be 8 and 9. So it's just a different way that you can do it in your head. Remember though, always check with your calculator. You've got that great tool, that great resource, so always be sure to use that. So the square root of 68 falls between 8 and 9. And if you would use your calculator, if you would type in the square root of 68, you would get 8.2462. So again, you can see there that it falls in between 8 and 9. Because 68 is in between 64 and 81. And we found that on this page when we looked at perfect squares. So that's what it means when it's between 64 and 81, those perfect squares. So since 68 is closer to 64 than 81, it will be closer to 8 than 9. A reasonable estimate for the length of the side of the square is 8.25 centimeters. So whenever it tells you to estimate, hopefully it'll give you a place value to estimate to. We estimated to the hundredths place. So remember, when you estimate, if I'm rounding to the hundredths place, I look at the digit to the right. And so a 6 tells me to go up. So that's how I got the 8.25. All right, the following irrational numbers are located between 7 and 8 on a number line. Circle the numbers that are located closer to 7 than to 8, and underline the numbers that are located closer to 8. So if you put these all in your calculator, the square root of 50, you get 7.0711. The square root of 59, you get 7.6811. The square root of 63, you get 7.9373. The square root of 55, you get 7.4162. And then the square root of 60 is 7.74597. Okay, so we're picking the numbers that are closer to 7. We're going to circle those. So 7.07, that's going to be closer to 7 than 8. And then we're going to underline the numbers that are located closer to 8. So the square root of 59 is 7.68, so that one's going to be closer to 8. The square root of 63 is 7.9, so that one is closer to 8. The square root of 55 is 7.4, so that one's going to be closer to 7. And the square root of 60 is 7.74, so that one is going to be closer to 8.